bienvenidos a mi canal de español. Hello everybody, so welcome to my Spanish channel. In this channel, I'm going to explain all about the things that I learned about Spanish, the things that I discovered about it, the funny and interesting things that are happening in Spain. Also, I'm going to talk about some Spanish cultures, so stay in tune as well. So for this video, we're going to talk about the Spanish alphabet here. So before we're going to dive into the pronunciation and all of that here, we're going to do a little thing about Spanish. So why I'm going to talk about Spanish first is that because I learned a lot of languages, like 4 languages, English, German, Spanish, French here. So I got a little bit mixed up when I actually learned German there. So I discovered that there's something called the IPA. And from that on, I started to actually learn about the IPA here. And I got like way digging it deep here. So I always found out that, in these 4 languages, there's actually a special name that we call them, either of which we call it phonetics. We use phonetics for like every languages, but now I have a newer classifying them as well here. So for Spanish, we call it the reglas de lectura here, which is the rules of lecture here. And I also found that for these languages, for like almost every language, there's something called the orthography. So for orthography, as like for something, the correct way that something should be spelled or should be written here. So transparent orthography is that because orthography is sort of like a little, not like a pyramid, but sort of like underground parking lot, we could say. So you have this is the ground level. We have transparent, which is on the ground level. Shallow, the first basement. And then we have medium with the second basement, and deep orthography, which is the lowest basement of it as well here. So here we can see transparent orthography. That means that Spanish should be the easier language to master, but is it? So we're gonna answer this question as well, because immediately I found a question in the second letter of the Spanish alphabet as well here. So if you want to ask if Spanish is the simplest like language to learn, then you might have to think about it twice here. So before I dive into it here, is that first, Spanish has no silent letters except for the H, which is H. What I mean by silent letters is that in French, when we spell a word, at the end of the word, like 3 or 2 letters, at the end of the word, we will not pronounce it. And there's a rule that we do not pronounce as well, but in Spanish, we will pronounce every letter of that word, except if there's a word with the H, then we will mute it, because H does not have a sound, it's a muted here. So with that on, let's get into the pronunciation of the alphabet as well here. But there's another problem. How many letters are there here? So you might see that there are 27, but historically it's not 27. It's actually 29 here. So, actually there's a little bit of changes involved in the abecedario de español here, which is the Spanish alphabet here. So, the earliest one that I could find as evidence is, according to Los Angeles Times here, as in the 1994 here, in which the Los Angeles Times reported loses che and ye here, double L and che here, see? So this one is the 2 letters that Spanish, or the alphabet of Spanish originally have here. So if you add these 2 up, it should be 29 letters here, see? And at that time, it's only reclassification. That means that we do not actually like wipe it out or erase it from the alphabet. We just reclassify to what you might ask, 2 diphthongs here. So diphthongs just means like 2 letters, but they just pronounce 1 sound here. And from 2010 here, they excluyó los letras che y doble A here. So that means that from 2010, they actually eliminated the letters che and double A here. That means that it is the official removal. Okay, we are going to remove for every dictionary, every website as well here. So this is where it starts to have the official removal as well. So from 2010 here, the official removal of these 2 letters here is the che and double L here. So here I got the official notice from the Real Academia Española here. So we can see the exclusión de che y doble L de abecedario here, see? Español al día here. En la ortografía de la lengua española de 2010 se excluyeron definitivamente de abecedarios los siglos che y doble L, ya que en realidad no son letras, sino diáglofos. So which means that in the orthography of the Spanish language in 2010 here has eliminated specifically the two letters che and doble L, which is, in reality, they are not letters, but there are diphthongs here, which means that they have two letters, but they only represent one sound here. So they are eliminated from the alphabet here. Okay, so from then on, we only have 27 because 29 minus 2 equals to 27 here. And then, now we don't have it anymore here, so now we are only left with 27 letters here. So you might ask when they actually involve che and doble L instead of it here. Well, it's actually in 1754 to 2010, they have the alphabet with che and double L, But after 2010 to the present day will be 27 letters. It's a 26 the English letter plus one letter that's very special, which is this letter. N with a little wobbly line across it here. This is called the N here, which just have 27 letters here. But you might see that some tutorials on YouTube will have included the double R, double R here. But this does not exist, not in history of the Spanish alphabet as well. So this one is not a letter in the alphabet here. Now we're going to talk about digraphs here. So remember that this is digraphs here and not diphthongs here. I know it sounds different in English, but I got mixed up in Spanish here because the confusion came when it's the history of the alphabet, the abecedario here. That's the name for the alphabet. So originally, I'm just going to recap a little bit about the history, is that originally this abecedario tiene 29 letras. That means that this, because the alphabet has 29 letters included with che and doble L. We call this che and we call this doble L because it's just like double L, and that's how we call it. L in French is L, and double is doble, so we call it as doble L here. So these are two, at that time they were considered letters in the alphabet here. Also with the always Spanish natural N here. So these are the three letters in Spanish that at that time Spanish in the alphabet were pretty similar and special here. And then they actually got rid of these two, erased these two here. Do you know the reason of it? There are two reasons. First of all, the alphabet is for single letters here, and this one, of course, is two letters, so it does not fit inside. And the second one is that this has two letters, but it's actually just pronouncing one sound here. So it's two letters, one sound, so it should be precisely in another category, which is digraphs that we're going to talk about today here. So the original intent to erase it was in 1994. That's the earliest evidence that I could find, published by Los Angeles Times. Here's the screenshot of it there. So after that, it's just a proposal because they don't have to rewrite the dictionary there. And then in 2010 is when they actually said, okay, that's it. We want to remove everyone, and they actually reorganize every single dictionary here. So this one is the two times that they actually thought about removing the che and doble L here. And the disclaimer, some might say that doble L, this letter here, this is not a part of the alphabet. This has never been part of the alphabet here. This is in the digraphs. This has always been digraphs here. So there's no doble L in the alphabet here. it is just for ch and a double l here. And then this is the word that we use today. So it's 29 letters included with ñ, ch, and double l. We minus 2. So we have 27, which is the normal English 26 plus ñ 1. So it's 26 plus 1 equals to 27 there. So this is the one that we use until now here. So at that time, I was studying about the Spanish thing called diptongos here. Diptongos. I was studying about it because I want to review what I have never learned before here. And I saw something that catches my eyes, which is diptongos and triptongos here. So if you remember in one of my other videos here, which is another language like German here, we talked about diptongos as diphthongs here. Well, triptongos will be triphthongs here, which means that they have 3 here. And in Chinese Bible, this is 双重元音 here. Although in German, in my German class, they say it as 双元音 here. And this one as diptongos, which is 三重元音 here. So they have diptongos and triptongos here. And then here is the confusion. The ch and a double l now has been moved to, watch out, as digraphs here. Not diptongos, as digraphs. So they are all the accents all on the first syllable here, so that's why I got confused. So this one is digraphs, and this one also diptongos here, and this one also triptongos here. So that's why as well they actually move things, so they classify it as digraphs, which is digraphs here. So if we look forward into them, we're not going to talk about what it means first, but first of all, we're going to talk about that digraph. We have digraphs in every single language, at least the language that I learned here, except for Chinese. Chinese does not use this kind of system as well here. So we have the digraphs here. So if we accept Chinese there, we have English, German, Spanish, French. They all use it there. So for example, in English, the English the symbols of all. For example, I make up any word here. For example, ship here, which is the same as boat, ship here. So we can see that here, this S and H should be the S. If we pronounce it differently, it should be S, should be pronounced as, so as the H should put as a sound in hat here. But these two letters combine to pronounce this sound, a sh sound. So that's why this is called digraphs, which in English is digraphs here. So this is a very easy example of it here in English here. And I just wanted to add a little bit of information is that although I said there's 2 consonant letters that must make up a digraph there, which is digraphs in Espanol there are some exceptions. For example, queen, that is the Q-U-E-E-N there. This pronounced a K and a W sound here. This should not be considered a digraph, but we consider a digraph because it has 1 spelling unit here. So it should really not be a part of the digraph here, but we just do here. So this is just one exception here, and of course there are a lot of more exceptions to there, in which that they pronounce 2 sounds, K and W, but they still refer as 1 spelling unit here, because of course when we want to draw the syllable, it's KW in here. So now we can see the actual meaning of digraph here, but I think from this, this is the example, very simple one, we can already make up the meaning here, which is basically just 2 letters. This letter means 2 consonant letters, because it cannot be 1 consonant letter and 1 vowel letter, because the vowel letter can only pronounce its vowel pronunciation, and it cannot be 2 vowel letters, because there will be diphthongs here, not be digraphs here. So that's why it can only be 2 consonant letters here, only two here. So digraph is only for 2 here, 2 consonant letters here. So two consonant letters make up the digraph here. And then how do we know if it's a digraph? Not only by the two consonant letters, but also we want to see if it pronounces only one sound here. And this has something to do here. There's some exceptions, but we're going to talk about that later here. So usually it's going to pronounce one IPA sound here, so it's going to work together as one unit here. And then it can even be split up. This digraph word can be split up. So di, we can put as 2 here. And graph, like in graphics, means written symbol or letter here. So that means that 2 written symbols or letters here. So that corresponds to our meaning here, which is like 2 consonant letters here. But the digraph does not always mean 2 letters, 2 consonant letters pronounce one IPA here. Like for example, the same thing here, queen. This is another English example that represents this exclusion here. So normally there's Q and U here, so this one we can have the same ku here. So this one is the ku sound here, queen here. And then we can see that here it has 2 sounds, but we still call it a digraph here because the 2 letters function together as a spelling unit here. Because of course, when we write it, we won't write it like that. And also the syllables will be like in, queen, in, queen here like that. We will not separate like that, wing, queen here. So that's why we are always functioning together as a spelling unit here. And then, just as a surprise knowledge here, even Chinese gets to participate in this digraph section here. Because Chinese, even though the characters itself cannot participate, but don't forget that Chinese also have pinyin here, so we have Mandarin pinyin here. Like 知,吃,吃,知道,吃饭, 吃 here, 是 here, 做事情知道吃饭 here. So it's 知吃吃 here. So thus, for example, ch, see, thus C and H here will pronounce one sound, ch, and then thus and then H will pronounce another sound, sh, only one sound here. So we can see that in English, for example, there's a lot of it here. They also represent one single phoneme here, whereas in French, they commonly represent the sh, f, and n sound here. And then in Spanish here, there are several combinations, but they have special pronunciation rules here. Some of the Spanish here is just for the differentiation purposes here. For example, pelo y perro. Perro means butt, and perro means dog. For example, tengo 2 perros y 2 gatos means I have 2 dogs and 2 cats here. So that's why I use a double edre, in which that's why I only use 1 here. So that is just for distinguishing purposes here. Well, we don't know which one is which here. And then in German, that is for the spelling combinations with special values here. And of course for pinyin, these 2 letters represent one consonant sound here. So with this on, we will exactly know why and where these 2 missing letters and why they should go away here, and where they should reclassify them here. So now let's continue. So now, after we know the confusion of how many letters there are, now let's get into the pronunciation of it. So now we can finally start looking at the alphabet here. But before that, the final thing I want to say is that we need to differentiate between phoneme and letters. Letters what I read before, which is the A, B, C, D, E, like this one. This one. Well, phoneme as the pronunciation, so that the letters how we write them, but we need like an audio track, so that is when we edit the video, that's why as our video length was, that's why as the audio, we call it the voice over track here. So that means that if I write this letter, it's going to have this kind of sound here, so this sound, corresponds to this letter here. That's what we call a letter to phoneme relationship here. But don't get confused here, because once upon a time I got confused with the phoneme and the letters here. So that means that I thought that in the brackets were the letters once upon a time as well here. But remember that in brackets it's called phonemes, which is the pronunciation, whereas the letter is the real letter that we use to spell in here, like when we use words, group it as words here. So don't get these two confused as well here. So now we're gonna look at the alphabet here. The first one is A, which is ah. And second one is bear here. And be careful, this one, when I wrote as bay here, it should be pronounced as bear. Sort of like this, closer to this one here. But here's where I felt a little bug here. So first of all of this one, I need to be sure this is not my typo. Even in dictionaries and even in all of the kinds of tutorials and books, they all write this one, but bay here. So this one is what we use as the official one here. It's bay. But you might hear if we say like a lot of like teaching videos on YouTube, they will pronounce it as bay. Even native Spanish speakers here, they'll pronounce it as bay here. Why? Well, that comes to how we transcribe it, transcription versus reality. So this is the problem that confused me for like about 3 months straight here, because I learned Spanish at a very young age there. So yeah, after I learned English, I learned Spanish right away there. So at that time, I only know how to repeat. So I repeat after my teacher say A, B, C, D, E, F, H here. So that's what I repeated there. But after I learned German, which is my 4th language there, I learned the IPA there. And after I learned IPA, I immediately found a little problem. It's not a little problem, we could say as a huge problem here. Is that every tutorial on YouTube says it's close to this one. So after I learned my 4th language, which is German there, I started to get confused with the other 3 here. So I learned the IPA. So I found the IPA, the official verified version of the IPA alphabet. No, the IPA of the Spanish alphabet, because every language has its own IPA there. And IPA transcriptions, because they correctly here, like French has its French IPA transcriptions of the alphabet here. So when I found out the Spanish alphabet, I was surprised to see that the B here that was repeated like for a few years from now will suddenly become to bay here. And I was surprised. So I started to research a little bit more here. So I found out that even native speakers pronounce the B as be here. It's not that my teacher was wrong, neither was I repeating it as wrong here. So it's just a classification called dilación. So that's what it says here. So we can see that officially we should say as B, right? Then we could see about all the native speakers say as B here. It's not that we say it as correctly B. We just say as close to it, so that means that it's not 100% to B here, but like lot more closer to it as well here. So now we can see that most of the time they will pronounce it close to B here. So we can see that the one that we have fixed the vowel problem, but this time as the consonant problem. For Spanish, we have voice consonant here, and we also have voiceless consonant. But this voiceless consonant is, of course, still we do not have aspirated voiceless consonants. So we can see that in Spanish we do not have aspirated voiceless consonants here. Like we don't have T, like this one. This one. We only have this little unaspirated voiceless consonant. So we only have voice an uninflected voice is consonant here. So that's the thing that we need to remember, the same as French here. So with that, we could say b. That's why the voice word, because it's b, d, g. It should be voiced b, e, b here. So, although in the phonetic like this, we should pronounce it as this to sound a little bit more native as well, because of that like symptoms as well here. This b, b. Same with say, same with de, same with here. So it's b, b. And then the next one is this one, a little oval shape with a little line as that should be biting your tongue. Say here, say. And then this one is also a voice consonant, d. And also, I forgot to talk about this, that for voice we need to touch our throat here. It's not actually called the throat, but the vocal folds here is d. So it's d, de. So that's why we can actually know if we are pronouncing a voice or voice in consonants. If it's a voice, it's going to be d. But if it's a voice, it's going to be d. We can feel very clearly in our vocal folds if it's vibrating or not here. This one is the de here, and this one is just only So here, there's two words that we need to remember, which is l'initial is privatisation here, which means that from the vowel here, we can see that b as the standard, but we pronounce it as b here. So the same with here. So it should be a here, but it should be We'll pronounce it as closer to here. So the same with f here. So in English we say f here, but in Spanish we do not say as efe. It's pretty funny though, efe. We pronounce it as efe. See this one? We pronounce the transcriber more accurately as efe, efe here. And then for G here, for the letter G here, this one we have an X here, which is here. So this one is a little bit like in Chinese. I'm not so sure if those who are watching this video are Chinese speakers, but in Chinese we have this one, 或者we can say 喝水的喝 here, 喝. In Chinese, this will like sound represents directly to this one, 喝. We have this kind of friction sound here. So the same with this one. So in the X here, it will be he here. So we're going to have a little thing vibrating in our vocal folds. He here. So G will be he, and of course this A will make he will be he here. And then for H here, it will be silent. In words, it's going to be silent, but in the abecedario, it's going to become ache here. So this one, there are some people who pronounce it as ache. We can hear that some people will pronounce it ache, but most people pronounce it as ache. So both pronunciations are all valid here. So either ache or ache here. And then for I, it's going to be only one little. There's going to be one so only pronunciation, which is E. Like in English, the letter E here. And then for J here, it's going to be hoda. Remember, this T is not hota, it's hoda here. So this one, the same up here, the fricative here, is hoda here. So now we can see that this one is ache here. So this one is ache here. So we can see that this one is I here. So this one only have one pronunciation, which is E here, which is like the letter E in English here. So I'm going to erase it for a moment. Okay, so now we can see the next letter, which is J here. So J in Spanish we say as hoda. We do not say as hota, we say as hoda because we say that there's no aspirated voiceless consonant. We only have unaspirated voiceless consonant as well here. So this was hoda. So this will become little the. But it's not voice. We don't say hoda. We say hoda. Da. We do not hear the little. Our vocal folds do not vibrate, but of course we do not spit out the a as well here. So in Spanish, there in the consonant world, in the consonant family, not only in Spanish but also in French, we have voice and voiceless. In voiceless, we have unaspirated, and we have aspirated. So we can see that if it's unaspirated and aspirated here, that's what will be the unaspirated voiceless consonant here. So it's hoda here. And the same with here, this one will not be ka, but it's going to be ga. Little g sound. So this one as the opposite. So g as aspirated voiceless consonant, but k as the aspirated voiceless consonant. So it's going to be ga, the k here. And for L, it's going to be ele. It's not going to be this a sound. It's going to be e. Ele. And the same for M here. It's going to be M. Same with the N here. For N, it's going to be this one. Let me change the blue marker. The first, we do not have these two wiggly lines here. We have N. See? So first of all, we do not have these two wiggly lines here, so we can see that this one's N. Yes, it's going to be this one as well. The A sound. So it's N here. And watch very carefully. Now we're going to add a little wobbly line across it here. See? Now we're going to become this one. This one is N here. So this idea is going to become like this. With a little tail here. So we can see that here we'll have a little tail. So how do you pronounce this sound? This one is n sound here. So it's going to be n here. And then for O here, it's going to be O. And for P here, it's the same. We didn't pronounce it as P, but it's going to become be. Like this one. Unaspirated voice is consonant but be here. And for Q here, it's going to be cool, but not cool. This one, because we do not aspirate this G out here, so this one should be G, but it should be which is Q in Spanish here. And for R, the most difficult letter will be edre here. And I naturally cannot pronounce the trill here, say in German here, but that's why I'm just going to pronounce this sort of like trill here, because I'm going to pronounce it as edre here. But of course, do not learn my one, because I do not pronounce it as trill, but if you can, then you can just pronounce it as a trill here. So, of course, this E will not become A, but it's going to become E here. For this one as S here that we talked about, and the next one as T, which is de here. Will be this one, the de here, which is T. And for U here, it's going to be U. Very easy here. And for the V here, it's going to be ube here. So this one is going to become this one, of course. But this one will not be pronounced as a voice one. It's going to be a voiceless, unaspirated consonant here. So this one, there are some people who also pronounce it as ube, but most of them will pronounce it as ube. It's not going to pronounce it ube. Here it's going to become ube here. And then for W, it's going to be doble here. Doble here. So be careful, this is a little word sound here. So doble here. So doble means double. So we say in English W here. So like double U here. In Spanish we say double V here. It's doble here. But be careful, the uve is going to become a V. Uve. uve. So it's going to become this. Uve, uve, uve. Double uve here. If you pronounce it quickly here. For X here, it's going to be X. Little G here, it's going to be X. And for Y, it's going to be Y here. And for Z, the last letter is zeta. So that's why it's going to be a little bite your tongue sound, and that's why it's going to be a little D. Zeta here. So now I'm going to read through these 7 letters again here. It's going to be A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, N, O, P, U, R, S, T, U, V, W, X, Y, and zeta here. And at last, for the conclusion here, we can see that these two words, reorganized pronunciation, is very important. For reorganization, it's going to be a Y, it's going to be this A, so it's going to become an A, and pronunciation will be a Y, the consonant spell here. And speaking of consonant, we have the consonant in voice and voices. And also in voices, we have aspirated and unaspirated here. And in Spanish, we only have unaspirated voices consonant here, like ga, gu, and X here. We do not have ka, ku, X here. So that's why we do not have aspirated voices consonant here. So that's the thing to remember as well here. And at last, the last thing I'm going to repeat again is that that's why we will tend to pronounce it closer to B here, all because of the reorganization and pronunciation here. And congratulations, you have successfully learned the Spanish alphabet here. So see you on our next episode on this channel here.